then. I guess everybody's hearing me okay?
Yes.
All right then. To order. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Absolutely. Director Gould, not present. Director Orzali,
Present.
Wood, Sheets, here. Director Jones is absent. Director White, not present. Director Clark,
Present.
Sailors, and Kelly.
Present. I thought I saw Director White online.
That's what I as well. I don't see him now though.
All right. Gould is absent. Orzali is present. Wood present. Sheets is present. All right, just trying to keep track for my own edifices. All right. Pledge to the flag. Will you please repeat after Director Sheets the pledge to the flag?
I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotable on Metro Cable 14. Replay on Monday, August at 6 p.m. and Tuesday, August 31st at 2 p.m. on channel 14. Cast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. Public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within district jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, have speakers?
We'll have a speaker this evening, Mr. David Warren.
All right, Mr. Warren, thank you. I would remind you that speakers' comments will be limited to 3 per section 31 of the Board of Directors Policies and Procedures. Please proceed, Mr.
Thank you. I'm speaking tonight because I'm asking that Metro Fire adopt a mandatory COVID-19 vaccination policy despite the objection of the firefighters union. 6 August, my immunocompromised octogenarian wife experienced a medical emergency. As I forth in the letter I provided to you, instead of requesting transportation, I drove my wife to UC Davis Citrus Heights because I was more afraid of who was transporting my wife than the risk that she could die while I was en route. According to the county health office, more Sacramento County residents have died of COVID-19 in the first 3 weeks of August than in any full calendar month since February. Looking tonight to make sure that Metro Fire first responders are not COVID-19 vectors. Firefighters' objection to a mandatory inoculation policy is based upon a matter of principle that the union contract requires certain prerequisites. I would like the union and its members to remember that it's solely their rights that are being affected by the opposition to mandatory inoculation. Every person in contact will be impacted. I'm aware of the video recorded by Captain Garnut, where he vociferously objects to mandatory vaccination. However, I'd like all the Metro employees to watch the video of Lieutenant Jimmy Adams of the Covington Kentucky Fire Department, who is recovering from COVID-19 induced bilateral pneumonia, which is but one of the many recorded by individuals suffering from the effects of COVID-19. As a child of the 60s, I know what it means to march to the beat of a drum. I spent a year in the South teaching individuals sufficient literacy to allow them to register to vote. Deepest regret while there is that I taught individuals about their rights as citizens and took no time about the concomitant responsibilities because I assumed each individual understood their rights only enforceable when individuals act responsibly. Only because all the individuals watching do not have access to my letter to the union, I wish to repeat one point. There's no doubt that the Constitutional Bill of Rights guarantees individual freedoms. However, those freedoms are limited as set forth in the preamble Constitution of the United States. As Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. said, the right to swing my fist where the other man's nose begins. An individual's rights granted by the Constitution are limited by how much hinge upon another's rights to the blessings of liberty. Even if the union and its members are unconcerned with the optics of firefighters refusing inoculation, I would hope that these same individuals be very concerned about the possibility that an unvaccinated firefighter would infect a fellow firefighter and that firefighter's family and now support mandatory inoculations. I do not ever want, again, to have my wife to UC Davis out of fear that the paramedics and firefighters who respond to the call may infect my wife COVID-19. I've seen videos of firefighters and paramedics going into burning buildings, people from cars which were on fire. I cannot understand why such brave individuals are saying they reject indisputable scientific evidence and as a matter of principle, object to a policy of mandatory COVID-19 vaccination. I ask that Metro Fire institute a mandatory COVID-19 vaccination to protect not only me and my wife and the general public, but also the firefighters and their members with whom they work every day. Although my time is up, I'd like to ask for a few more seconds to compliment our employees. I called Metro Fire for information and finally spoke with Lisa Gaines after several because your main telephone number kept going to voicemail. I kind of thought that Metro Fire had closed. Mrs. Gates provided me with the information I required almost immediately. I hope time to compliment her for her action. I provided a copy of the statement to Ms. Mahoney, and I would have to be made a part of the Metro Fire permanent record. Thank you.
For your comments, Mr. Warren.
Yes, I'm completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions by board members? Seeing none, we appreciate your input. Moving on to consent items. I didn't hear anything. Was it made? Consent agenda? Are you guys hearing me?
Yes, Director.
Anybody
Wood,
hear me?
Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Yeah, very lightly though.
Okay.
Better. Okay,
Director Wood
thank you.
and Director Saylor seconded.
All right, thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Director Rosali?
Aye.
Sheets? Aye. Clark?
Aye.
Sailors? And Kelly?
Aye.
Motion passes.
And
All right.
Record White, or excuse me, Director White is on the meeting now too, and aye.
Thank you, Director White. My apologies.
All right, then, moving to our closed session. Everybody has the link to that. I will see you in a minute on closed session. Right. Could you please report, could you please report out on closed session?
Director Kelly, the board made a closed session with respect to the workers' compensation claim of employee Paul Saban. The board voted to give authority to its third-party administrator to effect a settlement of Mr. Saban's workers' compensation claim. That's all.
All right, thank you, Mr. Labra. At this point in time, I would take a motion on this item. I would accept the motion.
So we voted on an inclusion, President Kelly.
Yeah. we
Oh,
did.
I'm sorry.
No problem.
Lost my mind for a minute. All right, then. Please accept my apologies. Moving on to reports. President's report. We have nothing. Fire chief's report.
Good evening, President and fellow board members. I have two introductions I would like to do tonight. The first is Parker, are you online?
Yes, I am.
Okay, the first one is I'd like to introduce Parker Wilborn. Parker is a captain. He's our new PIO. And I think he started about 3 weeks ago. And Chris Vestal, as you know, is promoted, is out in the field. Parker has been with, I think, I'll let him tell a little bit more about himself, but we have been spending a lot of time together. And he's found a lot of different things across the district. Parker, why don't you tell everybody about yourself there?
Yeah, thanks, Chief. I wanted to be there tonight, but I'm kind of working a work-life balance adjustment with this new position, new hours, and my daughter's leader for Oak Ridge, the mascot. She's 6 years old, and she asked me to be there tonight for a hot dog special. We're playing the Bulldogs. It's a pretty big rivalry, so I didn't want to miss. Apologize, I'm not there, but just know I'm in a good place. I'm also, just so you know, we're monitoring. We have a rescue going on right now at the American River Parkway. Copter 1's on scene of a bike accident right now, so they're working on getting somebody airlifted out. So just give you guys a heads up on that. That's immediate. As far as myself, I've been on Metro for about 10 years. Been in the fire service now going on about 14 years. Mostly down south. I own the bid at Station 50 on the B shift. I'm incredibly humbled for this opportunity. It's going to be a great opportunity for myself and Chief Harms to kind of work together and kind of bridge the gap between the line and administration and do really good things. We're already seeing really good feedback on our social media stuff. So we got a lot of big ideas. We got a lot of really cool things coming. Forward to working with all of you.
Thank you, Parker, and welcome. Next, I would like to introduce, right behind me here is Dave O'Toole. Come on up next to me here. Dave is our new CFO, and today is his official first day being here with us. He has a long history with the county, also a history of being in the Navy in the service. We're very happy to have him here, and he's gone through the initial paperwork and everything. It has been with Ken being here and being able to do that transition portion. It's been great with Amanda, but I think you have talked to Amanda and stuff, and Amanda's been just great all the way through this. If there's been anything that has come up, it's that you've been there. So, Ken, I'll let you talk a little bit about yourself and I'll welcome.
Thank you. So, yeah, Dave O'Toole, my first. Let's see, I'm generally a 20-year finance professional with the state and also with Sacramento County, the San District Regional SASD. So where I oversaw budgets and accounting there too. And with me, I mostly saw budgets and accounting. Most recently, I came from the state controller's office where I oversaw the auditors and accounting there. So a lot of background in finance, but like I have the opportunity to work now a little bit and speak with Amanda quite a bit and really understand inheriting a great team. Don't intend to mess with anything there, so just really help to get good work going.
Congratulations and welcome.
Thank you.
What we were going to do is have Dave get kind of comfortable for a couple weeks, and then if you guys want to reach out and to him and stuff, it's kind of maybe work through Michelle and set up some Zooms or conversations. I know that in the past we have worked with Amanda and those things, so let's give Dave a couple weeks just to kind of figure out, and then if you want to work with Michelle and getting some things scheduled, that would be great to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Some meeting portions of it. We went down and met with the new FD Academy. There is 13 folks in there. There's 8 paramedics and 5 EMTs. All 5 of the EMTs are in paramedic programs. I just need to finish up that portion of it. They will be 5 weeks down, and then they'll come out. They'll do their ride-along time, and then they'll count as staffing out there. So it's nice to that portion of the SRP program and being able to build it back up. I don't remember exactly what theirs were, but the open recruitment for the SRP program had just closed. I want to say, do you remember?
About 100.
About 100 folks that applied for that. I think there's about 30 some odd that were paramedics and another 70 that were EMTs. We had an opportunity to have a 2x2 the other day with Citrus Heights with Director Royce that was on there. I would say there was a lot of change that is happening in Citrus Heights. We learned just after that the police chief, Ron Lawrence, has taken a new position down in Costa Mesa as the police chief. So he is leaving. The city manager had retired, but they're going to hire him back. I found out afterwards as a kind of a annuitant, a little bit of time over there. But one of the things we asked them to do was give us an update, really, what construction is happening in Citrus Heights and in the area there. I was surprised Driving around there a lot and everything, there was over $60 million new residential construction that's happening with Citrus Heights right now. There was another $11 million in commercial development that was happening in there. I think you've asked me about growth in the district. A lot of it would have been Rancho Cordova to the district, little spots in other places, but they went through, I think it was 6 different residential areas that they are either redeveloping, or it was, I want to call it condensed housing, but housing projects, low income projects, and then just a number of really large residential. I would have never guessed there was that much residential going on right now. Homeland Security meeting, I sit on that on behalf of the California Metro Fire Chief. There is really nothing good that is discussed in that. It's everything that's bad or potential that could happen in the state. And yesterday we had a labor management meeting with Local 52. As always, a lot of good conversation. We had absolutely no agenda item, and we still sat there for 90 minutes. And I'm sure Mike will talk more about that, discuss items that is happening. The last thing just before Chief Mitchell is that we had the county chiefs meeting last Friday or last Thursday on the 19th. And we have a normal agenda of items that were there, but Dr. Casserier was there. Dr. Garzon, who is our medical director on the LIMSA, was there. And obviously the topics is, across the board is about what are we as far as COVID, what are the mandates that the county looks like they're coming out, where are they kind of going forward. So it was, you could see the relationship we could build to actually come to our meeting, sit at the meeting, and really lay out a lot and allowed us to give some impact or some input into where we are. And I know that Adam's going to talk more about that. That ends my report, unless you have some questions for me. If not, I'll turn to Chief Mitchell.
Thanks,
No
Chief.
questions for the chief, Chief Mitchell.
Thanks, President Kelly. Good evening, directors and all. A few items from operations update. I'll start off with what Chief Harms was alluding to, our current update on vaccinations and testing. As we have all along, we're continuing to follow the Sacramento County Department of Health guidelines when it pertains to how we're managing that. And so we did get some communication of intent from them on how to move forward as far as variation of vaccinations, as well as a weekly testing protocol that will be in place here shortly. We're finalizing the process that we'll use as far as able to take in and verify vaccination status. We're looking at opportunities through IT with some apps and things like that that'll really be an easy tool for us to utilize to get that information. And then for any members that are declining the state or that are unvaccinated, we're implementing a weekly testing protocol that will be followed throughout the near future, and whenever the county health changes the mandate or what have you, that's what we're going to do. So we're still in line with the same processes we've been with since the last 18 to 20 months of it, and we'll continue to do so. We're still have ongoing weekly plans and discussions that include a lot of the divisions across the district, and 522 sitting there with us at the table to have those discussions. So that's been really good. We do have tomorrow, actually, we've located a brand new screening technology that's come out. And again, with Dr. Casey's oversight and confirming, we're able to use that new technology as part of our screening processes for our members. The concern is utilizing the PCR testing through the county, which we've been doing, and Captain Perryman's been doing a great job with, and the BICE antigen testing. We don't know the capacity and how long that's going to be there, with so many folks are going to be needing testing on a weekly basis. So we had some opportunities to explore new technology, working with the Fire Service Medical Director, Dr. Mackey. We've located this new technology. We have a training tomorrow to review that, and we're inviting in some of our partner agencies as well to take a look at it so that we can roll that out. Questions answered on that, and then again, expect next Monday to have some more finalized versions of how we're moving forward. So that's good news. Couple more items as far as OES resource. Obviously, the state, we're still having a lot of large incidents going on. We have two in out right now as two different strike teams or task forces. Our OES 8433 has undergone their third biweekly crew rotation day, and they have been moved from the Dixie fire over to the Caldor fire, and they're working up there at this point. We got those members up there and switched out. Caldor fire is at 136,603 acres now, and it's just 12% contained. Our other engine, our OES 367 one engine, as well as a strike team leader and a strike team leader trainee, will undergo their third rotation of biweekly coming up this weekend, this Saturday, and they're still up there at the Monument Fire up north. And I believe it's Trinity County still is overseeing that. So our folks continue to step up and fill those missions and help out the greater good in the state, understanding that we're having some challenges and want to make sure that we're going to make that balance of we want to participate in the system and offer help where we can, but also if we ever need it, they're going to come and help us when we need it. So we're watching that very closely. And then finally, just some statistics that highlight the continued increase in call volume. We've had 5,356 total calls last meeting 2 weeks ago. That's an average of about 382 calls a day. If you remember last meeting, I mentioned earlier this year, springtime, we were about 300 to 310 calls a day. And then the last meeting we had, we were at 367 average per day. So we've had another jump in call volume. Our call volume continues to rise, as well as the impacts to our transports and things like that. So, and the busiest engine company, you'd not be surprised, engine 53, and our busiest medic at the time has been medic 31. So that's the end of the operations report, unless there's any questions.
What's your sense of percentage of our personnel that is vaccinated?
It's a ballpark guess, just based on some non-official census data. It's anywhere between 30 to 50%, but we'll have some better ideas based off gathering. It could be higher than, but we're anticipating it being right in line with what we're seeing throughout kind of the rest of the county and gathering unofficial data.
Is that 30 to 50% that have been vaccinated?
Yeah,
I see.
and again, that's a guess at this point, just because we've done any official gathering other than people letting us know for the previous mandate about being able to not wear masks. Obviously, since that's been changed. So when there's differences, obviously Pfizer getting confirmed as a official vaccine, that may have had an impact. So we'll continue to gather data on that and have some better ideas.
So encourage.
Any other questions?
Yes, a question.
Any other questions? Please, Director Sailors, go ahead.
So with encouraging the memberships that are not vaccinated to get vaccinated, are we going to be vaccinating them like we did before, or did they have to go elsewhere?
So we won't host like we did before when we brought everybody, we activated our emergency operations team and did that. We're not going to go that route because capacity within the system is such that it's widely available. And so we will support folks in identifying those resources, being able to get them to where they can get a vaccine as requested.
Any other questions of Chief Mitchell? Seeing none, Chief Mitchell, thank you for your report. We have firefighters local 522, Mr. McGoldrick.
Good evening, President Kelly and directors. I think pretty much everything's been covered tonight. We did meet with the chief, executive staff, staff team members, and local 522 to discuss staffing issues. We did make some changes. We're monitoring the system. It has a lot of challenges. The true fix is adding personnel to our staffing model, which is in the works. So I'm very optimistic about the single roles, the lateral hires in the current academy. That will help out somewhat. I think yesterday's discussion was very positive. We need to start doing the most for our community, but also watch out for our own people. I think that's a key component. So moving forward, as Chief Mitchell said, we're busier than ever. I did a back category last night at 51 and we ran 5 calls after midnight. So there really isn't any slow companies anymore. Everybody's on the street. It's time to give guys a break when we can. and still maintain these levels for our community. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGoldrick. Moving on to committee, or are there any questions of Captain McGoldrick's report? Seeing none. Moving on to committee reports. Nothing from the executive committee. Chief Wagaman, Communications Center JPA.
Good evening, President Kelly and directors. Communication Center JPA has not met since our last meeting. We are scheduled to meet again on September 14th, 9 o'clock at the Metro Fire Board Chambers. End of report. Hope everyone has a great evening. Thank you.
Thank you. California Fire and Rescue Training JPA. Chief Harms.
Good evening, directors. On August 19th, we received a report from the attorneys who are moving forward with the solution of the JPA. A number of issues that came forward that we talked about was the last classes at the JPA be offered on April 30th. The official closing of the JPA will be June 5th. They'll be conducting an audit of all of the assets that are there. We also will look at the property. For us, it is a lot of that property is our property that we own, and all the improvements that have been done at those properties, any assets of Metro. The last thing we did was a closed session that went through and about the employees there and how do we move forward with the employees. Our next meeting says on here, it is August 16th. We have up to where we meet every month to discuss each one of these things as we move forward in the report, unless you have any questions.
Are there any questions of the California Fire Training JPA report that Chief Harms provided? Seeing none, moving to Finance and Audit Committee. Director Orzali.
Finance Committee met this evening and received 2 reports from interim CFO Campos, and the upshot of that is I continue to be impressed with the work not only that the CFO does, but of the entire staff. And good news for me that we are apparently still, even with the vagaries of the economy, still able to maintain significant reserve in the 15% range. Next meeting is on September 23rd, and that's the end of my report.
All right, then. The Policy Committee is Director Gould. He is not available, but I'm sure they've not met since he last reported out, and the next meeting will be scheduled as needed. Moving on to board members' questions and comments. Director White.
Thank you, President Kelly. I just would like to welcome both Dave and Parker to their new roles, and to, commend our personnel, not just our personnel, but their families as well for, putting up with their absence while they work many extra hours, going on strike teams and providing coverage at home, working through both the very hectic fire season and increased call volume locally due to pandemic and other issues. So just wanted to say thanks and acknowledge not our personnel, but their families as well for the sacrifices they're making. Thank you.
Thank you, Director White. Moving on to Director Sheets.
No comment tonight, thank you.
All right, directors.
I just would echo what Director White said. Beyond that, I have no comment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Director Orzali.
2 things I wanted to mention is Chief Harms earlier participated in the 2x2 with Citrus Heights, and the working relationship that Metro Fire has with Citrus Heights is audible collaboration. Both organizations have great respect for each other and work really well. The other point I'd like to thank Mr. Warren for his comments this evening regarding COVID and wearing the masks. Metro Fire's policies regarding uniform personnel. This is a complex issue, and we are all working forward with it, with the seeing, at least from my perspective, with a similar goal. So thank you very much.
All right, then. Director Clark.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, first of all, I'd like to thank CFO Ken Campo for his work. He's maintained our relation for transparency. We have a great finance division. And I also like to welcome our new CFO, Dave O'Toole. The other thing that I would like to put out to the community is just be careful with this virus, this variant, because I have never seen the last phase of this thing, I hardly know anyone that was infected or passed away, and it's goes. I've seen several people that have gotten tested positive, got the virus, and if it weren't for the fact that they were vaccinated, they would have ended up in the hospital. So it's to me, it's very crucial for our community to heed the advice of our medical community and to take this thing seriously. I've come close. Some of the people that I know I was close to have either passed away or were seriously ill. The other thing is I'd like to thank the men and women of our district for the work they're doing. These people are working hard. The men and women out there in the field are hard. They're working a lot of overtime. God bless them, and thank you for your work. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Director Clark. Director Sailors.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would just like to echo comments of the previous director. They have stated everything, and that's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
All right. Well, if I could, I'd like to welcome Mr. O'Toole. Welcome to Fire. I'd like to thank Director Arzali for the comments he made relative to Mr. Warren's testimony earlier. I hope that everybody has a safe weekend, and I will look forward to seeing you all a couple of weeks from now. Have a good evening.
Thank you.